Hey everyone, Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS Season 13, Episode 8. And I will admit, I probably got my hopes up a little bit too much for this episode based on the previews from last week. I really gotta stop trusting previews as much as I do. Um, but, it's still a great episode. It's just they were talking about it like unforgettable episode, and I was like, is somebody gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen? Um, and there is a lot that we got to see that just was surprising. The return of Jean Benoit, really, uh, running joke they had going, and it was nice to see her again. Kind of interesting to have her married now. I know it's been a while since they were even together, so obviously it does make sense that she's had plenty of time to get married. It's not like something that she and Tony were together last season and now all of a sudden she's married. No, it's I can't remember what season it was, but it's been quite a few seasons since they've been together. But it when I saw that she was returning, it's like, oh, are they gonna? And then she says she has a husband right away, and you're just like, oh. And my problem with that is, like I said a couple episodes ago with um, Delilah and McGee, I like the fact that they're still together, that they're still using Delilah. There were a couple times when it looked like they might break up, but they're still together, and that's nice because relationships on the show have been fairly poorly handled. Uh, you've got, you know, Tony's been just every single episode where he has like an old flame that he meets, and it looks like maybe they're connecting romantically. The very next episode, he's hitting on some girl, and they're like, "What happened to so and so?" And he's just, didn't really work out. We want a different thing, and it would have been nice for her to come back and possibly be a romantic interest again, but she's not. Now she's married, and they've got this show is not just revolving around the crimes that happen. It's the characters that really have kept me watching for 13 seasons. These characters are characters I can get into, and it's one of the few shows that I actually care about their personal lives. Because most of these shows, whenever they bring in personal lives and stuff like that, it's just like, okay, this is droning on way too long. But this show, the personal lives of these characters actually matter to some point, at least in my opinion. And so I really, I want McGee and Delilah to finally settle down and start a family. I want, you know, hearing all the stuff about what's going on between Bishop and Jake. It's interesting stuff, and obviously things are looking a bit rough right now. Gibbs possibly getting back out there. He's married several times poorly, and so it's just, it'd be nice to see him get back out there, and especially Tony, because he's getting to the age now where, when the show first started, I want to say he was like late 20s, maybe. Don't don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure. But like he's probably about 40 at this point, in the show at least. I don't know Michael Weatherly. I don't know what his actual age is, but in the show, I feel like Tony's character is about 40, and so at some point he's got to settle down. At some point he's got to say, okay, enough is enough, and it feels like he hasn't reached that point yet. And we're 13 seasons in. He's got to reach that point at some time. He's got to finally get a relationship, find the girl that he wants to be with, lovey-dovey, all that stuff. I don't have to go too much into that, but it's not realistic for him to be this old and not even really looking. So, it's just something that kind of bothers me that he's still not there yet. He still, after all this time, has not matured to the point where he had those moments where it felt like, well, maybe Tony's matured now. Maybe he is ready for a real relationship, and he's still not. He's still not looking right now. He's still just whatever. So anyway, that's the minor complaint I have for that. But as far as the episode itself, it was very good, very exciting. You've got, like I said, the return of Jean Benoit. she's working at this place where they send doctors, overseas and stuff, and that's what her husband is doing. He's overseas. They get kidnapped. Him and this other lady doctor, they get kidnapped to work on a tribe's chief, while some of the other doctors have been killed. And so, it's less of a mystery episode, and that's interesting because most of these are mysteries, and you're like, who done it? In this case, it's not a mystery. It's they know who did it. They're just trying to figure out where they are, what tribe took them. There's no like surprise plot twist ending where so and so did it instead. Um, and so the case itself is fairly. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. It just a tribe took them, and they find out information about the tribe, use that to find out where they were taken, and very nice ending, action-packed ending where they're taking shots, and Gibbs calls in a few favors and gets backup to arrive and help them out of the tight situation, and they all survive. Um, but that was the case. That was it for this episode. The other story though that was interesting, and I wondered at the beginning of the season if they were going to carry on at all with it, and they have. Gibbs and his injury. He collapses fairly early on in the episode in the squad room, and the doctor that worked on him is there because he knows the lady doctor that got kidnapped overseas, and so they're checking on him. He gives him clearance to get back out there, and even though he's just in the squad room, he was going to go overseas. Thank goodness he didn't. But he's just in the squad room, and like his vision gets all blurry. And he starts to, you can see he's feeling lightheaded, and you're just like, I thought the doctor gave him clearance. Come to find out that the doctor missed like this tiny little, I can't remember what he said it was. It was like a flesh thing or something inside of him that would cause him discomfort, and that's what he was feeling. Anytime he coughed or sneezed or anything like that, it caused him like great pain. And so, Gibbs was thinking that maybe it's mental pain, but it was actually physical pain to the point where, his body just stops working because there's so much pain, and that's why he fainted. But, it's still, even though they did find out what the problem was, there's still an obvious mental issue there with Gibbs. And the doctor says it himself, that will go away, the scarring will go away, but that will never go away. And so, it's still telling his story of what's going on with him right now, all the stuff that's, he's dealing with a lot of stuff. And he was already dealing with several things with his daughter and his wife, the first daughter and wife that got killed. He dealt with all the going through marriages, then divorcing, all of that stuff, dealt with all that. And now he gets shot and nearly dies and is brought back from the verge of death. And that's gotta, he's gotta have, and on top of that, dealing with, at the end of last season, he was seeing Mike Franks again, but not only that, seeing all the people that have died, and he feels like it's his responsibility. It's an agent that was lost on his watch. And so he's going through so much right now that I'm very curious to see where they're taking this story, because that's the one thing that has been consistent throughout this whole season is, Gibbs is having to deal with all of this, case after case. Very interesting. And probably the most interesting thing about this episode is just how seeing that it's affecting him physically, but it's obviously affecting him mentally too. So very curious to see where they take this. Other than that, once again had some funny moments. They had a couple running jokes every single time. A new character, or not a new character, but one of the team members that hadn't been shown already. Like McGee's like, Tony, Jean Benoit, really? And then Gibbs comes in and they start to give him the rundown. He's like, wait, stop. Jean Benoit, really? And then Abby's downstairs and Gibbs comes in and she's like, Jean Benoit, really? It's just, I don't know. The humor on the show has always been really good. It always makes me laugh every episode, so that's nice. But other than that, it wasn't the, I guess, the unforgettable episode that they were talking about. So it wasn't one of the best, but it was really good. Um, Very intense, edge of your seat action at the end. Uh, curiosity with Giz, what's going on with him, wondering what's going to happen next. And so, very good episode. Just, I got my hopes up too much for it and was hoping for like one of the best episodes ever, which it's not quite there, but it's still really good. So that's my opinion on it. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'll see you guys at the next review. Peace out.